And we're on the air. And it's another discussion, reverse redaction. I'm Judah McNeil, and I'm here with Ford Suze. And we're going to discuss the art piece, I guess, right, of Stranger Things 2. Now, this is, of course, the sequel to the much acclaimed Stranger Things 1. And so co-executive producers, the Duffer Brothers, are basically the creators. The Duffer Brothers made this amazing, to me, amazing 80s flavored sci-fi. It's like a cross between X-Files and The Goonies.
And Stephen King.
And Stephen King, yeah. Yeah, a lot of Stephen King action. And so this year comes back with I thought was interesting. Sean Astin stars as a new character, Bob. And pretty much everybody else comes back for the second go round. And Paul Reiser. Do you remember when folks used to call me Paul Reiser?
Oh, I didn't. Oh, that's a good little comparison. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I hadn't thought about Paul Reiser in years. I mean, Mr. Mad About You.
Yeah, not only Mad About You, but he also played a big role in Alien.
Oh, I'd totally forgotten about that.
He kind of it's a kind of his role in this sequel is a throwback. It seems there's some scenes that are throwbackish to his
totally
scenes in
forgot
Alien.
about that. Yeah,
is it Alien or Aliens? One of those. I can't
remember. Yeah.
So, what is your overall take?
Okay, so I guess first of all, as I was watching Stranger Things 1, I loved it. I was fine with I suspended my disbelief and I just went right along with it. I feel like comparing it to J.J. Abrams is a pretty good comparison for me because Abrams is really good at getting mood, getting character, initially to engage the viewer.
Yeah.
I think of that movie Super 8. Again, kind of the same sort of deal. Like it really feels like Spielberg when you're first looking at it. It feels nostalgic. So I think they're kind of following in that sort of.
Yeah, Super 8 is a real good comp there.
Yeah, and so I think everything feels right on the surface. The problem I have with Abrams and the problem I have with Stranger Things is if you really go back and rewatch it and you allow yourself just to take a step back, then you just start to see the seams a lot more. Like if you turn to the left a little bit, it's almost like if you're looking at something like a 3D image, right? And it's like a patchwork quilt or something like that, right? Like it's like you're looking at it looks like a flat patchwork quilt, but you start to move to the left and then you start realizing, oh, no, there's actually space between this quilt. It hasn't been sewn together, I feel like that with Abrams' work a lot of times, and I feel like that with Stranger Things. Stranger Things season 1, I felt like this problem with a lot of Netflix shows, Daredevil being one of them, that there will be really good moments, and then there will be these just cringe-inducing things that kind of just take me out of it, and it takes me an episode or two to recover. And where there's just like they didn't need with Daredevil, especially season 2. They didn't need like 4 or 5 of these episodes, but they just made them for some reason. I don't understand why. It's like, maybe they had a budget they had to meet or something like that. But it's just like, it seems like they contrive conflict to drag the story out because they want people to binge longer. I don't know. It's just like when you have a certain amount of story, just give us that amount of story. It's not the TV show. You don't have to extend it out for 15 or 20 episodes. So if there's not enough story for 8 episodes, make it 5. That's the way I feel about it. I mean, like Sherlock has been real good about that. I mean, you got 3 episodes in a season, just shorten it if you don't need to. So Stranger Things season 1 suffered from that for me. Episodes, I don't know, I think it was 2 episodes where there's just this unnecessary conflict that just didn't feel earned to me. Season 2 is worse. Where it's just
right.
Like there's just
I know what you're talking about. We'll get to that.
Yeah, there's just diversions that are unnecessary. There's characters who are unnecessary, not fully fleshed out. We've got enough good stuff in this show in terms of character or nostalgia that we don't need to add more. But and I guess my main complaint with the series is that it's really trying to be something, which for me was the same problem with Super 8. It's not. It's a facsimile. It's not the real Spielberg. That Super 8 was not the real Spielberg, and this is not the real Stephen King. Stephen King in a tweet just was like, "This is the way you do science fiction. Stranger Things season 2 is the best." Blah. I'm like that. No, that's delusional. That's he just likes to see, his a reincarnation of his work on screen. That's not as bad as the Stephen King Langoliers TV series, which was one of the worst things I've ever seen. So anything better than that or Dark Tower for him is a win, and it's definitely better than either of those things. But yeah, I feel like it's not quite there. I honestly think in 10 years you're not going to come back and watch Stranger Things season 2. Like it's just not going to happen. It's going to fall to the wayside in comparison to other things that do a better job of telling the story. That being said, there are good moments that we will get into, and then I will go into detail about some of the things specifics that really frustrate me in the spoiler section.
Okay, now, so overall, do you give it like grade wise?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things like it works when it does, and it doesn't work when it doesn't. So it's like, I don't know, 2.5.
Okay.
Out of 5 probably for me. It's like right at the 50% marker, 2.5 to 3 maybe. I don't know.
Okay. See, I disagree with you about this. We won't go back and watch it in 10 years. I mean, even after getting through all the episodes, of course, the beginning is a lot better. But after watching all the episodes, Chan and I were still asking ourselves, like, when can we let the kids watch this? 5 years, 6 years, and really getting excited about the day we can come back and watch the series with our kids. And I don't know. I really enjoyed it. So I agree with you completely about the comparison to J.J. Abrams, but I feel like as far as artists go, the Duffer Brothers are much better painters than J.J. Abrams. They paint with much richer colors, and their character development and the actors on this movie, on this show, it feels like a movie. And it feels like a well-done movie, put all together to me. Now, the story is where it really breaks down. I agree that the story had. I thought that it was it was a lot too much of a copy of like a formula of the first one, and really there were no big surprises. And the word that came to my mind after watching it was Disney. I felt like this one was Disney-fied compared to the last one, where the bad guy was like, and really. So we'll get into spoiler talk, but it felt to me like it was formulaic, a formula that was started in the first one, and there was too much of this. The bad guys were too much were caricatures of bad guys, and the plot was uninspired, and it didn't feel new, or it didn't really trick me at any point,
Right.
Whereas the first one, I really appreciated how you kept asking yourself, what's going on, what's going on, what's going on. And of course, they couldn't do that as much with this one, but they could have done something.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, the mechanics of the first one, I think, is what made it interesting with the electricity. That was a very visual way to communicate that whole thing.
Mm-hmm. The whole Demogorgon, like,
right.
I don't think they actually revealed the Demogorgon till later on in the series. He just kept taking people, and he had no idea what this thing was. It was like the J.J. Abrams monster, except it actually ended up being a monster.
I would say with Super 8, see, and that's where I would differ with you. Like, I think the problem with Super 8 is mainly the monster and some of the, I don't know, some of the drama. I feel like the kids in that show, that movie act really well, and some of the moments with those kids are just perfect.
In Super 8?
Yeah, perfect. That acting scene where they're trying to shoot the movie in front of the train and like they're trying to get it set up or whatever, that is a quintessential film moment for me, I feel like. So yeah, I don't know, like the performances, I don't know, they're kind of all across the board, because sometimes the writing is just not really that great. Like, I understand kids fight over dumb stuff, but you really have to earn some of those moments. And so can we go into spoilers?
All right, yeah. So overall, you give it a 2 out of 5. You give it an emoticon?
I'll give it 2.5 out of 5. And I don't know. I give it the meh emoticon. Okay. Like, there's one episode in particular we're going to talk about that just tanks the series for me, and it never recovers for me after that. Like,
okay,
I was suspending disbelief. Like, the first half of it for me was fine, and I was like, oh, I'm pleasantly surprised. I thought it would be worse than this. Like, and and maybe even 2.5 is unfair, just because. But it's just that one episode. I mean, it just totally derails. And the fact that they start off the whole series with something alluding to this episode is it was unnecessary and just went in the wrong direction.
Okay, well, we'll get to that. I give it a B-. I really enjoyed it, but I think without you take, everybody I've talked to, I've said don't watch episode 7. Just skip it. You won't miss anything. You'll barely miss anything. And but because I feel like you take episode 8 out of it, and I would give it a solid B. But so maybe I should give it a C+. Yeah, probably a C+. Okay. We're talking. Who cares? Yeah. Okay. So spoilers. Let's talk about spoilers. Go.
Okay. So the first thing that frustrated my daughter the most, aside from episode 7, was, and if my daughter's getting frustrated by it, usually I feel like that's a good sign that if a younger person is noticing this, then that's a big seam in your art. Why is that? I mean, it should not have the attention drawn to it. So the main thing would be for her would be Dustin defending the D'Artagnan, the mini thing, the
Demogog,
the Demodog that starts off as a what did they call it? They had they had a name for it or whatever, but
slug or something,
slug looking thing, but they had a name.
D'Artagnan.
D'Artagnan, yeah. So he just takes this kind of just radical, again, it's one of the problems in season 1 where they all start fighting about 11. Well, now they're fighting about D'Artagnan, and neither of these fights ever felt really earned to me. I mean, like, they're sitting there talking about 11 in season 1, like she's not there, like she's not a human being, and like we just need to get her out of the group. Like, you've witnessed so much crap right now. This conversation shouldn't be happening. Like, this is serious. Your friend's gone. She has superpowers. Maybe you should be just still in awe that she has superpowers, not be like, oh, well, she's not part of the crew anymore. And then season 2, like, you have witnessed crazy things in season 1. Maybe this slug is not a normal species, like maybe you shouldn't be a friend with it. And the way they try to pay that off in the last episode, just no. So that was one for her. And then the way the show starts, it just, for me, it put the show on the back foot. And then the way they reference it again, showing this number 8 in another city, in a big city, it's like, oh, we're taking this global now. It's not just a small town story anymore. Like, we're bigger and better, and we got a car chase. I'm like, none of those characters in that van are any interesting at all. It's just like, they just took this little hodgepodge they went to Tumblr and they found 5 people, and then just like took those 5 people from Tumblr and then transported them back through time to the 80s. I'm serious. Like, it makes no sense at all. This is just like an SJW wet dream that they just like imported back through time, back to 1985. Like, those people don't exist in our world, let alone 1985. Like, that was just it was just such a treacly attempt at being diverse. Like, golly, that just felt like just a political sermon, you know. And
what were the politics? What were the politics they were pushing?
It's just like how diverse they are, and how, you know, and that they're so bad, they are having adventures and doing a heist. Like, it's just unnecessary. Like, oh, you're going to have a diverse group. Well, at least give them a backstory that's actually interesting, or make them like somehow sympathetic. All those people were not sympathetic at all. They were all jerks.
There was nothing interesting about that whole episode. There's nothing
the actors weren't good either. Like,
they were terrible.
They were terrible. So I mean,
yes.
If you're going to make a diverse cast, like, find good actors for it. They're great actors that can do that, pull off that stuff, and write them as interesting characters. Don't just make this like treacly attempt at diversity without, you know. You want a good Indian actress. You want a good Indian actress? Call Bollywood. They would love to be an American TV show. You got this girl who can't even like nail her accent down. She's 1 minute she's like British Indian, minute she's Indian American, 1 minute she's Indian. Like, she can't even nail her accent. Like, get an Indian actress to come in, for crying out loud. Like, golly, like,
yeah.
Like an actually established Indian actress. Like, you know, you get established American actors to come in. You got Sean Astin and Paul Reiser to come in. Like, call Bollywood. Get someone who can actually act from Bollywood to come in. Like, it's not going to cost you that much, and they would love to do it. It would be great. So it's just like that faux diversity. Again, it's just this token kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, look at us. We're branching out. Like, golly, just tell a good story. Like, I don't need that episode. Episode 7 is so bad. 11 looking like this goth from 2005. Like, what is this? It's 1985 here. Come on.
I know. I felt like she looked so innocent and so like angelic in the first one, and I felt like they were trying to subvert that somehow in this one and make her. I actually don't think they knew what they were doing with that.
I have no idea either.
They said something about they were trying to see if the audience would go for like how it was a test to see if how the audience would react to taking it elsewhere into different stories or something.
And it was really poor timing with all the sexual harassment stuff going on in Hollywood. There's allegations of pedophilia.
Oh yeah.
And then now, and then they make this. Oh, the marketing of season 2 has been bad. It's just been really, really bad. And they've got these news stories about 11. I can't remember her name. The character, the actress who plays her, like. Looking sexy in her, like, she's 14 years old. Like, what in the world are you doing right now?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Gosh, not a good timing, guys. Like that, marketing for season 1 didn't exist, and it didn't need to, because it's freaking Netflix. We're gonna watch it.
Yeah.
They didn't need to market season 2. They just wasted like $10 million of marketing budget, and it's like, we're all gonna watch it anyway. Like, just engage with your fans. Like, golly.
I agree. I write off episode 7. Of course, you warned me about episode 7. Everybody warned me about episode 7. Now for me, this is the bummer for me, is that you had said something about Sean Astin. And then on Facebook, I saw something about it and Sean Astin. And of course, they were just referring to that story he tells about the clown, and just extrapolating from that. But somehow I got it in my head that Sean Astin was actually from the Upside Down, and he was there, and like, so when Will says, "Who are you?" And I was like, here we go, and like, it's some kind of like he turns into some alien form, but that would have been so interesting. But instead, he dies, and it's just, I did like how they subverted though the idea of, so the big rough tumbling guy is usually the guy who goes and saves everybody and then gives his life at the end, but instead this time it was the nerdy guy. I like it, although I would have liked to have more of Bob and less of whatever his name, Hopper. Oh,
Hopper. Okay, yeah.
Hopper.
Yeah, he didn't. Oh man, the contrived conflict between him and 11 this season just, I don't know. Like, I just didn't buy his motivations, the reason why he's doing stuff so well, and his temper loss, and just the again, they just have to create reasons. The problem with both seasons is creating reasons for people not to get together so that they can't figure out what's going on. And I just feel like those reasons are contrived in both seasons, and especially in this season. You know, the reason that forces 11 away is just, it's just not great.
Well, see, and that's why I would have thought, I thought that having some real spies, like having Will as a spy was interesting, but having more upside down spies, I think would have been a lot better. Some more possessions, you know, having something other than a demagoguin, you know, demodogons, you know, it's like having something else.
Yeah, the Demodogs, it's kind of like, you know, the skeletal army in Thor Ragnarok. Like they're just, it's not compelling. It's just like, oh, there's just more of those, you know, shrug.
It feels just, I mean, it feels like you could replace them with aliens from Aliens, you know, and except they're worse. They're not as menacing.
No, they're not.
You know, like you feel like you could get bit by them, and well, people got bit by them and kept going. And I'm thinking, in the first one, it felt like the underground was infection, and they talk about it as like, they talk about the bad guy, you know, what's his name, the Mind Ripper or whatever, as a virus. But there was not enough feeling of, and they even talk about festering, but there was not enough festering in the movie. There was the evil was not festering enough. It felt real, impotent.
Yeah, the threat just didn't seem like it's underground, like, and it doesn't have tendrils like really that are reaching into people. You know, it's just the only threat is its little minions, and the minions just, in comparison to the Demogorgon, just weren't really that like impressive. And the thing that frustrates me about both seasons is like, you know, all these trained military people are, you know, can do just get slaughtered immediately, and then just a minute.
Yes.
You can pronounce stuff, babe.
What?
You can pronounce stuff.
Babe, I'm in the middle of a podcast.
I'll be really quiet.
All right. Hurry up. Oh, is it locked? Give me just a second. Chad has to print something out.
All right, no worries. Take 5.
Hi.
Hey.
Say hi to Ford. You want to say hi to Ford?
Hey.
Hi.
You want to go back out with Dora?
No, I want to give my Cookie Monster. Where's
Sorry, I didn't know
Cookie?
you were doing a podcast tonight.
Every Wednesday morning.
Where's Cookie Monster?
All right, go outside with Dora, okay?
What's my jacket?
While she's doing that, what was I going to say? Oh, so I'm working on editing them now. I'll put them on the Surfing Violinist website as soon as I get them up, edited, and then I don't know what you want to do with that. But it's all right. We're not in the middle of recording. I mean, we are, but I'm going to edit all this out. What do you need to print?
Amos paper.
Yeah, I got time. We're good.
I'm sorry, man.
No worries.
Can we just print for mine?
Go to Gmail.
Huh?
Go to Gmail.
Here, do you want to put your password in?
It's
One?
no.
No, it's not. Oh, caps lock's on. Sorry. You just put it in. What is it called?
The Runaway Slice.
Okay. It's not letting. Okay, there we go. That's all you need?
Well, I'm just gonna email something really quick.
Why would you email something to yourself?
Yeah.
Because
I fell out of the.
Oh, thank you.
you gotta print something else out?
Yeah, just like quick.
Where's the lunch bag?
It's in the. Thank you.
There's two.
Thank you.
Okay, what else? Quick.
To attach it to the email.
What?
I'm attaching it to the email.
What email? Where is it? Is it on your drive?
It's on my computer. I'm attaching it to an email.
I don't have my email open.
I know. I'm attaching it to my email.
Okay.
Okay.
Both?
Yes, please. This will do your podcast. So we can edit out.
What?
You can do your podcast.
No, you can't. How long is it going to be?
Sure.
Man, it's like 100 pages.
No, it's not.
That's just
Like 10,
one of
right?
these.
But a lot of those are on one card, right?
No,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
look, this is just one.
There's like 6 pages. It looks like.
You gave me 2 to print out, though.
I know.
So that's 12.
I don't know what the other ones. I don't know what the other ones.
It's the same. Huh? Well, I mean, I thought you usually leave it at 8. It's 8:20.
Shut it off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry, man. Well, for now, just let me know. I can print them out for you. Like, you know, coming up soon. Yeah, this is gonna take forever. You want them both printed out? You have to have them both printed out? Okay, well. Hmm?
So there's like 10 of these ones. Never mind. Should I do the other one first? Actually, once there's once there's one more of those, you can cancel it. That stays in capitals bingo, and then just let the other one.
That's all there is. I think that's it. Isn't it?
These are the cards. I believe.
I don't know how to cancel it. Let me see. So you only need 9? That's page 9. Or that's page 8.
Wait until page 10, and then you can click the X, and then let that one print.
How many of these you need?
All of those. There should be just 6 pages, right?
10. Sorry, Ford. It should be only about 10 more minutes.
Oh, we're fine. I'm good. I'm not
Okay.
in a rush.
Okay. What time do you guys get home this afternoon? You're not going to need the office, right? Will. I'll have Will this afternoon. And Timmy wants to do. He wants to make cookies or something for Thanksgiving. So we might use this kitchen. Can we cook in this kitchen? They make monsters. Oh, they're gonna actually use it. What do you use to?
Rachel told me I know it's easy to build into Thursday.
Oh, nice. problem. Yeah, you're right. No problem.
All right, I'll see you later.
Okay, love you. Okie dokie.
Okie dokie.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Perils of sharing an office with the wife. Okay, so you were talking about the Demodogons and the impotence of, or the unscariness of their.
Right. That, you know, the season I think builds up to something good in the first few episodes. There's this sort of brooding fear that they encapsulated really well in the last few moments of season 1, where Will, you know, pukes up the thing. So it's like, this isn't over. And so when the smoke monster looking tentacle thing shows up in his imagination, like, that's a great thing. It just doesn't go anywhere. I mean, it just ends up only possessing him. And I just feel like we needed more of that thing. Like, it starts to come into the real world, or I don't know exactly how they work it out. You know, it's like when Gandalf is about to face the Balrog, there's a sense of like how evil this thing's going to be. I mean, you've seen cave trolls, you've seen orcs, you've seen Uruk-hai, like, oh, I don't know if he's seen Uruk-hai by that point, but you've seen goblins. So when the Balrog shows up in the first episode of, you know, Lord of the Rings, like, there's just this the fear, you know, there's like punch in the stomach kind of fear. I feel like they had that kind of thing building up with this force, you know. It's like, it's a force. It's not just a demon. It's not just a demigorgon. It's something other. And then it just kind of dissipates, like, literally, like, it dissipates, and we just get demidogs. So I felt there needed to be more, you know, but they spend, you know, too much time on some of these side projects.
Terrible.
And one of those side projects is the California brother and sister, which is just totally unrealized. Like, none of that is just fleshed out in any conceivable way. I mean,
that's
like,
why I was really hoping that the California brother and sister would end up be possessed, or be, you know, shapeshifters from the Upside Down. Some kind of twist where they would actually matter to the overall arc of the story.
Yeah, you know, the only reason he exists is for a rather, like, scandalous but somehow funny interlude with Mikey's mom.
Yeah,
that little thing, like, the Harlequin romance bit. Like, that was the only time I actually laughed at that moment. It was just so absurd. But other than that, like, what is that dude there for? He's the most cartoonish 80s villain of all time. And that's, I don't know why he's there. And then at the end, you know, like, so your character has to have something, you know, like, to set them apart, you know, to be a hero, you know. And her moment, the sister's moment, is when she picks up this syringe that happens to be lying around and then injects him with it. Like, that's not like a hero moment. That's just like, oh, look, there's a thing, let me stick that in him. Are you going to have that syringe? Is that your superpower from now on? You're going to have a syringe with you all the time to, you know, ward off your brother. And then later on, he looks at her like, oh, I don't want to mess with her, she might have a syringe. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Later on, it's like, he looks at her like she's a threat now.
Oh, like, what? Like, oh yeah, she's going to defend herself against him. What?
And as far as writing goes, all she did was eliminate the threat that she introduced. You take them out, nothing changes.
Right. Yeah. It's totally just a side project. It's just, you know, like, just trying to shoehorn in this, I guess, love story in for Lucas or something like that, which I'm fine with. It's just, but we don't need the brother then. Like, just have the girl. And the girl just could not hold her own acting wise with them. So
yeah, she was like she was a shadow of Elle.
Right. Yeah, that's
she was a replacement, but terrible. She was not even close to.
And you know, my daughter just starts to like just moaning when the scene where she's sitting there talking with Mikey and Elle comes up. Like she could see it coming a mile away. Oh, Elle's gonna get
everybody
mad.
could. Yeah.
Like, oh, please. Like that was so just contrived. Again, contrived conflict to keep the characters apart from each other so there's more drama.
Well,
Just
and the
so
sad thing,
operatic.
the sad thing is that not only was it contrived, but we've all seen this. We all saw your little daughter saw it coming. We've all seen it so many times. It felt tired. You know, a lot of the plot felt tired. There were, it's okay to do that if somehow you subvert it later. You know, you flip it. Oh, whoa! But this happened instead. But they never did that. It just sort of petered out the end. Elle does the exact same thing she does in the first one, except she doesn't disappear. And I don't know. I felt like it. You know, her closing the gate was so anticlimactic for me. She just holds her hand up like the other one, and then I'm sorry, but there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing compelling about this whole idea of go to your angry place. The angry memories she was going back to were conflictual at best. You know, there was some. Her motivation for being angry about the images they showed, like I was like,
gosh, no. That reminded me, like in Bollywood movies, they'll have these things where it's like, hey, remember this thing that happened earlier in the movie that you've already seen 14 times? Let's show it to you again so that we'll have emotional resonance in this moment. And like it felt like that. It was just like, oh my gosh, yes, we get it. Like, come on.
But even in those scenes, they didn't actually show any scenes, and I was trying to think of anything that would actually, if I was her, you know, if you put yourself into her character, like what would I be mad about? And I mean, just having been through the movie, been through those scenes, I didn't feel like those scenes were particularly rage-inducing. You know, she wasn't really mad back then. It's more hurt, you know. If I had thought about those things, my powers would have waned a little bit in thinking about them. Well, you know, because of this, you know, all of a sudden the gate starts coming wide open. Yeah, that was terrible. But I still enjoyed the movie. I keep calling it a movie. It felt like a movie to me. I still enjoyed the show.
Okay, yeah. So now that I've dogged it enough, I think one of the things I like, one of the mechanics that I like is, and this is, you know, a repeated motif in cinema and motion picture, is the trying to get a demon or, you know, an outside force out of a person. And, you know, what you have to do, how far are you willing to go to do that? And so to me, that's the most compelling thing that happens in this season is, once again, Winona Ryder's character going to hell and back to save her son. And, you know, Jonathan's, you know, once again, Jonathan's kind of a little whiny, you know, just want to slap him in the face a couple of times. You know, it's like, come on, keep it together. Your mom's right here, dude. You got to get this thing out of him. And it's like, and she's willing. It's like, I would rather my son die than be possessed by this thing. You know, like if it comes down to killing, if he's going to come out of this, the only way to do it is to take him to the brink. Again, like that is all time, you know, international conflict, you know, through the epochs. Like that is the idea of, you know, okay, I got to sacrifice myself. Am I willing to sacrifice my child? Like that's the question. If the child is being afflicted by something, you know, like man, I mean, that's again a moral quandary. That's an ethical dilemma. Like, how far do you go to eradicate a cancer that is trying to? And you know, they kind of allude to that in the first season with Hops. You know, and I thought that was a way more effective flashback. You want to talk about more effective flashbacks in the first season, the things that he's thinking about, you know, in his past with his own daughter. Again, like that motif comes back up, and I think maybe that's the strongest element of both shows. Just how far do you go for your kids, and how far is too far, you know? And that's pretty strong. So I like that. I like the struggle that Will goes through, and I guess just I wish there were more things for other people to do. It's just like the show got too big for itself and kind of crushed under its own weight. Like Mike in this season just does absolutely nothing. He is just basically an observer. I mean, he has absolutely no role.
His role, I feel like his role served. He served as the friend, the anchor throughout the movie. He is Will's anchor. Whenever, Will,
we needed more of that and just less of some of these diversion. We just needed more of him finding, like, discovering things. Like it's just, most of the time it's just him discovering things in a kind of weird way, or at a time it doesn't matter. Like, oh, he's actually the spy. Let me tell somebody, but it's too late. The different dogs are going to eat everyone, So, we just need a little more of that relationship. But I do like the mechanics of the smoke monster leading into possessing Will, and the struggle, that forces Will's mom to have to go through.
It still felt a little weak to me as far as like there was no cost. There was no. So what was the cost of having the demon thing in him? It felt, that's why I go back to the Disney thing. Once it was gone, Will's back to normal. There was never any, like, I always, not that I wish I could see any of this stuff, but to me, it's much more frightening when there is actual, like, physical, like if they had started to get hives or something, and
I agree.
Or
You're
something
right.
that's irreversible, about this disease. It never felt diseased at any point.
Yeah, you're right. Like Tony Stark, he ends up with that thing in his heart. You think about, Frodo is never fully recovers from his contact with the ring. Like there's something that debilitates him. And so I think we needed a little bit of that. And then first season, you gave that to us for Will, but there needed to be, you're right. There needed to be something like a limp or something like that. Thor getting his eye, knocked out, like something like that. There needs to be some sort of stakes, to bring it home. One of the other things I do like about this season was the reporter, actually. In a time when we're distrust of the media is at its highest peak, we kind of forget some of the times where the media has scooped something that needed to be scooped. And this was one of those times where, the guy starts off in crazy town with his conspiracy theory, but the conspiracy ended up being weirder than his conspiracy theory. And so the moment, where he's trying to discover, the whole vodka scene was great. Like that was great. Like we can't drink this straight. We can't give this story straight. Yeah. That is kind of compelling. If you think about it, like you can't tell the full truth because it's too crazy. So we're going to have to dumb this down quite a bit. And we're going to make it about, an abuse case. We're going to make it about a missing persons case because nobody's going to believe the reality of it. So I thought that was kind of fun. The sexual tension between Jonathan and Nancy was, it was funny with the reporter there. Like that whole little bit was kind of funny. He was funny
and believable. Like, I thought,
that's he was.
The Duffer Brothers are excellent, or whoever's writing and directing this, are the strength of the show is the ability to draw you into these little relationships, these little lives. I believe that this place exists. I believe, while I'm watching this, I believe it all. The problem for me is they draw me in. So they draw me into that. Where does it go? They send these things out. I'm not sure what that did.
Right, that's true. Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. That is the problem with the media. I mean, this is the weakness of the media. It's just like it just forces these things to go underground even more. Like, oh, we got the big scoop, and you got justice for her, but what does it really, solve in the end? Nothing. Like, oh, they're moving, but the military's not done for. You think they're going to quit? They're just going to go underground. So yeah,
I would have preferred if. When they do, when they reveal all this stuff to him, he actually has something for them that they can bring back, something that ties back into the through line. There was no, well, I guess there was a through line, but nothing was tying in to the through. Like when they come back, they're like, listen, guys, whoa, stop, the blah, blah, blah that this guy saw. And we couldn't because we're too entangled in it,
Right. Oh, that's a good point. That would have been good.
But instead they come back and they're like, yeah, we were on a little trip. I don't know. We finally saved Barbara, or we saved her memory. Well,
right. I think you do make a good point about like these little moments, these character moments, like, Hop and Winona Ryder's character sharing a cigarette outside the gym, at the dance at the end. Like that's where the show is strong. I feel like more of these little things, these tender human moments where it doesn't have to be reduced down to a romantic relationship. People can be friends, and there's this sense of community, small town community. And I will say another thing that I do like about the show is they have created this Indiana town in Atlanta, like in a suburb of Atlanta. It's Butts County, I think. I think it's like right down.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it's right down the street from Steven's house.
Oh, wow.
And so, they have recreated Indiana in Atlanta, and they've made it look like it. Like I look at, I don't think Atlanta. I think, oh yeah, they're in Indiana, and they've redone that really well. Man, Atlanta's subsidies must be off the charts or something for everyone to be filming there right now. But yeah, so that I thought that was pretty good. Yeah, and just in general, I just feel like it's just they're trying to accomplish too much. I mean, sometimes sins of ambition end up just I honestly don't think. I want us to come back in 10 years and have this conversation and see if you really have remembered to show your kids Stranger Things season 2.
I mean, the whole Stranger Things. Well, once it's done, how many seasons are they going to have? I don't know.
4, I think. 4.
Oh, really? They're going for 4?
Yeah.
Wow. The one last moment that I really appreciated was between Dustin and Steve on the side. On the railroad tracks. I thought that was a really great moment. I really appreciate the development of Steve's character, even though I didn't really know what purpose he served. He's kind of, as a protector.
Right. I liked him. I like what they did with him in season 1. Like, the first time he repents and he goes up and starts cleaning the sign. Like up until that point, he was kind of a typecast, but then like you start saying, oh, well, yeah, he's a human being too. I mean, he's a rich kid, but he's not a total brat, and he's trying to take responsibility for his actions. He's very mature in this season. Even when he loses his temper, I'm like, well, I kind of understand that actually. Like he is a very human character in this season. And, I thought he was good. And, he ends up being a babysitter that, again, they don't give him much to do, which is more of it's not his fault. It's not even his character's fault. It's just more of a fault of plotting.
Yeah.
They just don't really have much to do.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me that they didn't do the same thing with his character, in this formula where you have a bad guy, in the school. Who's the guy, the brother and sister, brother guy?
California boy. I don't know.
California boy. They, instead of, complicating his character, they just left his character as the bad guy. I don't know why. Do you feel like they tried to, like, with
the thing with the dad? Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I just don't understand the purpose of it at all. Like, it's just kind of,
it's oversimplistic too. Like, he gets beat up, therefore he's violent.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. Second last thing. What are your expectations for season 3?
I guess they're lower than they were for season 2, and my expectations for season 2 weren't good. Like, I did not think it was going to be good. I mean, I wanted to watch it just because my daughter was so into season 1 and just loves the show, the world creation so much, and the 80s-ness of it. She's kind of one of those, 80s retro fans. So, I was in it for her. But I really had low expectations, and it exceeded my expectations until until episode 7. So my expectations are even lower for 3, but maybe they'll surprise me.
What do you hope? Like, if you were to write, if you were to write season 3, where would you go?
I'd go to Philip K. Dick. You know, like I'd leave off of Stephen King. I think we've mined enough from Stephen King, and he's kind of just gone off the rails. Like him and Joss Whedon and me, apparently, we've gone off the rails in different directions. Like I've become this, they would call me an alt-right neo-Nazi, and I would call them absolutely insane. Like I don't even know. I couldn't even categorize them. But we've all just kind of gone crazy in this last year, and we had Donald Trump to think about that, I guess. Donald Trump and Hillary, I guess. Let's just blame everyone. It's all their problem. They've pitted us against each other. Like the real world is just a giant WWE fight, and everyone is gone. What is it when is when they turn
heel?
Yeah, we've all become heels. Like
turned heel. So, yeah.
I mean, I was actually following Stephen King on Twitter for a while there because sorry, this is totally ridiculous out of left field. I was following him on Twitter for a while. Because I was reading some of his old short stories, which are kind of mixed bag. I mean, there's ones that are just like genius, and then ones that are like, what the heck? A giant rat? Like what? It's just like kind of dumb. Like honestly, you need to read his short story Lawnmower Man. Just go and read that. It has nothing to do with what the movie they made out of it was. It is the weirdest short story I've ever read. So anyway, well,
how would you go Philip K. Dick?
So I'm sorry. So anyways, but I had to stop following Stephen King because he's just like crazy old man at this point, just like muttering like, totally unintelligible complaints about everything. So I would go Philip K. Dick because almost every single Philip K. Dick story has this crazy observation or future prediction that's just like, dude, how did you know this was going to happen? And just crazy insights into human nature that are threatening. Like they're like, oh, I don't want to have to make a decision here. Like I don't want to be the people in this story, and I don't want to have to face this ethical or philosophical dilemma. So we need more of those kind of moments with those kind of ethical dilemmas that make Stranger Things compelling. We need more of those little character moments that are tender. So that's not the Philip K. Dick part, but the bring more as far as the sci-fi goes, go in that more ethical dilemma, like seriously, and just read some Philip K. Dick short stories, like that's what I would say. And then find a way to package it that is more mainstream. You don't want to package it like Blade Runner 2049. That's not what Stranger Things is. You don't want it to be that kind of heady and, esoteric and all over the place. You want it to be Goonies meets Philip K. Dick. That's what I would say. Instead of Goonies meets, rehashed Stephen King. Because that's where we're at right now. We're not at the best Stephen King. We're kind of at rehashed Stephen King.
Well, and I think that's sort of the weakness of I think that is the core. It's at the core of the weakness of the show is that it doesn't have any allegory. There's nothing. It's not telling us a message about anything, right? It's not telling us about. It's not helping us understand our lives. And it's interesting because it's set in 1984. Little throwback to
I think another thing, they've always teased kind of the Dungeons and Dragons aspect, which is something I missed out on. All my role playing came in the form of video games, so that which was Japanese inspired, Japanese role playing games like Final Fantasy and Secret of Mana and Chrono Trigger, those kind of things. But I do kind of get the just that wonder, that sense of wonder where you have this other fantastical world where other things are happening. I'd play up that a little more, go a little deeper in with those D&D nerds. And really just dig into, they reference the party and stuff like that, but let's have a little more of what these heroes' journeys go through. One of the most powerful moments in season 1 is when they put the Demogorgon piece on the table, boom, and there's that chord that hits, like boom. That explains everything about what's going on right here. Like we need those kind of moments. Season 2 does not have that moment in the entire thing. No. And and the way they wrap up season 1 with them having this marathon 10-hour D&D game, there's like, that's how it ended, that's not enough. Like that was great, sort of like winking at the camera, meta commentary on what people expect from a show. But I just want them to sit around a table with some nerds for longer and try to hash this out better, because some of the stories that these RPG writers for video games have come up with, some of the character development, like our pinnacle. I mean, just top shelf. And I feel like there are probably some nerds sitting around writing D&Ds that have only the 4 of them have experienced, that are as good as Heresy, but are as good as some of the stuff that Tolkien and the greats have given us, really, because they're crowdsourced stories like that have a different way of looking at the world. So yeah, I want them to really kind of go back to the drawing board, literally, like the D&D drawing board, and bring something out that is different and new, not just nostalgic.
I agree completely. And my hope for it is that, so I've played quite a bit of D&D, and what is fascinating about D&D is it's actually in the name of the show, Stranger Things. It's like you can always have a stranger and stranger thing. You can, your imagination can take you as far as you want with, as you're creating different characters, but also as you're creating conflict and politics. And I feel like if they could really construct this narrative where the Upside Down is an analogy for the internet, the dark side of the internet, and just the internet in general, which you have, and really go
that's interesting.
Really mind some of the conflicts that you see, like on I think of Tumblr, like Upside Down just seems like Tumblr, like it's just this dark,
Tumblr for the left, or 4chan for the right, like that's the thing, like let's get both sides of the darkest side of the web,
right? And so where you see these, like, it's really dark and scary, but you have to they really need to, I think every good kingdom needs politics. That's what makes Game of Thrones, of course, so intriguing. You need these politics in the underground. It can't just be the underground's all bad and there's this big baddie, there has to be conflict there.
Right. And they kind of, they try to allude to it to some degree by Dustin forming some little bond with the Dimmadog. Like, oh, this thing actually has some humanizing quality, like it kind of attached to him, imprinted himself to him because, he fed him Baby Ruth. Like, oh, well, maybe if they're leading that to somewhere, like maybe there's a way that the Horde can actually be good, then, oh yeah, maybe there's a political side to the other side as well. But it does just seem kind of like a pastiche of this Cthulhu mythology. There is something more strong than us out there that just wants to eat us, and that's it. But end of story. Like, yeah, I don't find that quite as interesting as again, that's like superficial Stephen King. Stephen King can get deeper than that too. Like, but the reason I would say Philip K. Dick is because with Stephen King, generally he is a fan of shock value, and that there doesn't always have to be a resolution, like it just seemed to be like, oh, this was gory, this was weird, this was different. It's like, okay, but we have kids who are going to win, so let's actually have a philosophical, moral battle here that is Stranger, like you said, like there's a whole new world to open up, and that it gives us something different than just Stephen King's It. Like,
well, think about this. What if they did this? What if they follow the I keep calling it the underground, the Upside Down, so if that's the internet, then you talk about through the narrative, you talk about the conflict that kids have these days getting wrapped up in the internet and the difficulty they have with real life. And so one hand you have the underground, on the other hand you have the plot continues with the politics of everyday life, and so you get the Philip K. Dick with the government coming in,
really
and
good. Yeah,
the sci-fi aspect, the doctors and the what have you, and the mom. You can continue with the mom.
So instead of just being like this parallel world where you have the Upside Down being cartoonishly evil and the politics being cartoonishly evil, like they made the politics this time not as cartoonishly evil because Paul Reiser was maybe a little bit of a douche, but he wasn't a bad guy.
Right.
So, as compared to Matthew Modine, because like, let's be real, dude. Season 1 is cartoonishly evil. Matthew Modine is cartoonishly evil. That woman who just shoots people willy nilly is cartoonishly evil. So, like, we're getting, we're maybe developing something bigger and more real here. Because the other thing is, sometimes it's not what's cartoonishly evil that ends up being evil. And this is the thing I'm pushing back against in my life right now, that I feel like I have hit my head in every institutional sense, whether it be, in the church or in business or with the state, or with, any human endeavor. Politics seems to enter in and we say, well, this is the way it's been done. This is the cultural inertia. This is our momentum. We're going to do it this way because that's the way it's done. And you're just like, this is stupid. Mm-hmm. Why are we still doing? We have technology that can fix this. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, but then so-and-so is going to lose his job and he doesn't have any other skills. We have to keep doing it this way. Well, that seems like a waste of potential here. So I feel like there are some things that are seemingly innocuous in the above ground that are actually maybe the upside down can subvert. Maybe there's some good things to the Tumblrs and the 4chans that unlikely bedfellows can kind of like come together like, oh, wait a minute, this actually needs to be changed. So maybe you have your cartoonishly bad California guy and, your cartoonishly annoying number 8 Indian girl who like finds some way to come together and like fight a common evil, that doesn't seem to be evil on the surface. Like it's just, just a token bureaucrat who's just the bureaucracy is actually creating the problems in the upside down that nobody knew about.
Yep. And what I'm afraid they're going to do is I'm afraid they're going to take it into like X-Men territory or all the.
Yeah. See, there's just too many things that like that scene in episode 7 where she takes her out and says, you feel your anger. I was like, that is a direct lift from, Professor X and Michael Fassbender.
Star Wars. I mean,
yeah. Which is a direct reference to that. Yeah, totally. But
and the thing is all she does is she moves it was like, wait, didn't she do like way more in season 1?
Didn't she flip a van?
Yeah, she exploded a Demogorgon, but now she can move this big heavy thing 10 feet.
Oh man, that was just painful.
So okay, what can we take from this into our everyday lives?
Well, what I want to take from it is what you said. Like I've never played D&D, but this whole idea of we need Stranger Things. Like we need some Stranger Things to solve some of these problems. Like I read a Philip K. Dick short story last night that just, oh man, it just had me like analyzing the way I've been doing things this last year. Like maybe I'm one of the crazy people he's talking about here. Like it's just, we need these voices that kind of call us to look at ourselves and think outside the box, not just with society, but with ourselves, And so I think season 2 gets that with Will to some degree. We both think it could be fleshed out better, but this idea that, man, there is a virus here that needs to be dealt with. But also there's a virus in the culture that needs to be dealt with. And that one seems more convenient, So I want some more Stranger Things in my art and in my productive output that calls me to be a better person, but also, holds a mirror up to society. It's like really, we're just going to have taupe walls and institutions, like, and like, and maybe there is a kind of victory of that in season 2 when the military is leaving the thing, because you look at that building. I mean, that's just indicative of everything that can go wrong, not is wrong, but can go wrong with centralization, specialization, building towers of Babel of steel and, mirrored glass into the sky where we just centralize everything. Yep. There's this uniformity. We're all just going to do it this way. We're all going to go to our jobs, even though we're trying to keep a demon under wraps. Like, just the professionalization of so many things that are, that maybe we have better tools to deal with now than are just, building it up into the sky.
Okay, but taking it into our own lives, I think it's important that we dabble in Stranger Things in our own lives, because, that may mean to us, because I am somebody who I'm always sort of attracted to Stranger Things, to the anarchist side of things. What if for me the stranger thing today in my life is to actually, I don't know, pack my suitcase, pack my briefcase and go to work, that kind of thing,
Right.
like where conformity may be the stranger thing for me.
Right.
I have to push myself.
I think we need both of those things. I think we, but like we kind of need to nurture these strange, like the creative side, find ways to continue to work on that, because I feel like if you don't nurture it, then it does just die.
Yeah.
And this show is a testament to that. It's the celebration of childhood. That's what it is. That's what Stephen King's It really is. I mean, that's one of, his more positive works in a way. So I think we need to, nurture the childish imagination side, the Stranger Things D&D side and RPG side. But you're right. Like, grow up where we need to, and, and combat, I guess, that tendency to reduce everything to a bottom line that's not keeping a bigger picture intact. And, fantasy helps us keep that bigger picture intact. I feel like, the big questions.
Yeah.
That we want something better. We want something better than just, taupe walls and tiled floors.
Yeah. And I think there's also something to be said. Something you said in there reminded me that we need to keep a through line. And, I guess it's another way in which Stranger Things 2 failed. But in our own lives, I think we need to keep a through line and bring things back to that. Let's build something in our lives that are I know this, and I need in my life something where I say, this is the core of who I am. I'm going to push into Stranger Things, but everything comes back to this. This is who I am. This is what I'm working on. Keeping a through line and bringing things back to that through line. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something I thought about, but well, that does it for. Wow, what episode? This is episode like 6.
No, I think it's 4, right?
4. Sure. What is the next thing we want to explore?
That's a good question.
I was thinking of a book or a song, an artist of some other form.
Okay.
Have you ever read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell?
I've not read it. I've seen one of the shows. I think I saw one episode of the show.
Well, okay, we'll read it between now and next Wednesday. It's like 1,000-page book. That would be something I'd like to explore in the future.
Okay.
It's a book that did not get enough attention.
Gotcha.
And it talks a lot about dealing with magic and anyway. So, but
have you ever read Ender's Game?
Yeah. You want to do that next?
Ooh, let's talk Ender's Game.
Ender's Game, not the movie.
Not the movie, no.
The book.
Yeah.
Let's talk Ender's Game.
We can kind of, we can kind of spend 1 or 2 minutes criticizing the movie, and then we'll talk about the book.
I can't even remember the movie. All right. So Ender's Game next Wednesday will be our topic of discussion. Now, are we going to limit it to Ender's Game, or are we going to go into...
I only read the second one, Speaker for the Dead, which we can talk a little bit about that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think...
Yeah.
You've read all of them?
Most of them. No. I read a lot of them, because then it branches off. There's also Bean's his perspective.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways, we'll stick to what so Ender's Game, Speaker for the Dead, and we'll discuss that.
All right.
All right, man.
All right.
Well, this has been good. I will talk to you next week.
Sounds good.
All right. Oh, wait, we haven't worked on our outro.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I still don't have anything. Let's one of the things I do like about especially season 1 and the way they ended it with them sitting around playing D&D is that they are working on their own story. And I think that there's something for that with us who are so tempted to consume. We're just tempted to mainline and binge the next Netflix show, ironically, instead of thinking up our own stuff. We live in a time of unprecedented ability to get stories out there. And, there was a meme for a while on the internet called creepy pastas, where, people would just basically write message board posts, and I read one a while back about the Godzilla Nintendo video game, which was just absolutely riveting. And, there was no other market for this thing, just people to read it on the internet. And I think there are ways, and, I think that could start if a family just sat around and told each other stories. Like, let's come up with our own story. What is our mythology? Come up with our own, instead of just rehashing everything that's come before. So, but I don't know. I don't want to say let's make Stranger Things, because then it'll be tied to that show.
What about like something like let's continue to work on our story or something like that?
Right.
Wait, it's on the tip of my tongue. I mean, like something, like
make your own myth.
Make your own
Instead
myth.
of choose your own adventure, we're gonna
make your own myth. I like it. Perfect. Okay. Well, brother, have a wonderful day and make your own myth.
Make your own myth.